Republican Congressman Don Bacon of Nebraska joins me now. He sits on the House Armed Services Committee. He's a former Air Force brigadier general who flew combat missions over Iraq. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. If Iran does not make a deal that is acceptable to President Trump, he says tomorrow the U.S. is going to bomb Iran back to the Stone Ages by hitting these power plants and bridges. Would you support that action?
Well, first of all, the optimal solution here is to get a government that's friendly towards the United States and its neighbors and that doesn't want nuclear weapons. That is the ultimate goal. I don't know that we're going to get there because they have a vote, and we're probably not going to put much ground forces, if any, in Iran to force that kind of regime change. Now, to your question about bridges and power plants, I was taught targeting to some degree while I was in the Air Force. It's all right to hit bridges or power plants that directly enable the military or the senior leadership. But if these power plants only support the people, then you get into targeting civilians, and that's not right. But if you could hit the appropriate power plants or bridges that would affect military movement or decision making by the government of Iran, that's a different story. I think the president, more than anything, though, is posturing to tell Iran, come to the table and let's settle this peacefully from here on out. So I think this is a negotiation tactic more than anything.
The president says that the Iranian people, he believes, would be willing to suffer through this decimation of their infrastructure because of how bad the regime is. Obviously, the regime is evil. But if there's no plan to help actually topple the regime and install leaders with an ideology that is better to the Iranian people, embracing more of human rights, are the Iranian people going to benefit at all from this?
Well, I don't think most Iranians want to go without power and electricity. Nobody wants to have that happen. I do think most Iranians want a government that's more representative of the people, that respects human rights. Clearly, this regime does not. I mean, they're hanging and shooting people every day for showing any dissent to the government. I think 30,000 is the minimum number. It could be 40 or 50,000 Iranians have been murdered. So it's very hard to get regime change with air power alone. We just have to acknowledge that. I think we've weakened the leadership. I think we have them on their heels. And perhaps now if an uprising occurs again by the people, maybe this government will just collapse. But that's a hard feat to do with air power alone. And I don't believe the president nor Americans want significant ground forces in Iran. That's not something that would be well embraced. So I think we hope the regime falls. But if not, we're going to have to negotiate with a regime that is not exactly what we want. But maybe we can get enough conditions put on there that we're in a safer world because of these operations than we were before. This regime hated America. They've been at war with America for 47 years. They've killed approximately 1,000 Americans. This is overdue, but the end state's a hard thing to get to, and air power alone makes it hard.
You're a former combat pilot, so I want to ask you about this weekend's rescue mission to extract the crew member who had been shot down over Iran. What stands out to you about the details of this rescue, how risky and complex it was compared to other past rescue missions?
I was actually more of a backseater type, electronic warfare officer or a WISO like this colonel was. No, this mission was incredible. It was incredibly complex. It was dangerous. It was very well executed. But to get helicopters in that deep, and some of those helicopters needed refueling on the ground. Hence, you had the 130s land on the ground. You had to get the SEALs in. You had the search and rescue teams there. Very complex. And I think what made it possible was the air superiority that we had. We had, unmanned aircraft flying around, spotting the Iranians as they were getting closer to the downed colonel, and we were able to target those guys as they got close. So we were able to impede the Iranians getting to this downed airman. This would not have been able to happen without air superiority, in my view. But it was very complex, and I was so proud of the effort of the joint team. All the services are involved here. It was incredibly well done.
The president today again slammed NATO, calling NATO a paper tiger. He's recently said he's going to consider withdrawing the U.S. from NATO. You say that would be unacceptable. It would cause a civil war within the GOP conference. Have you tried to speak directly to the president about this to share your perspective?
I've not had direct conversation with him, but I have had with members of his team. And I just want to restate, pulling out of NATO would be a disaster for decades to come. It would weaken America. America alone is a weaker America. And our European allies are democratic. They reflect our values. We need to work together with Europe on the world's problems. We need their help to deter Russia. We need Japan and Australia to help deter China. And we need allies around us in the Middle East. We can't do it alone. And I would point out that though there's some blame to go on both sides, the president's threats towards Greenland, Denmark, and Canada have really hurt our standing in Europe. I know some of the prime ministers and presidents personally. I know many of the ambassadors, and that caused grave damage. The trust between the European leaders towards President Trump is significantly weakened. And I think it's going to take after Trump leaves for us to be able to heal this, if we even can then. So grave damage has been done, and I think it's hurt our national security by what's happened.
Republican Congressman Don Bacon of Nebraska, thank you, sir, and thank you for your service as always.
Thank you.